Hello and welcome back to another episode of Life with Jamie and more. I want to thank anyone who's actually coming back to listen to another one. Thank you so much. It's great. I love it. And also welcome to anyone who's listening for the first time. Thank you for just having a listen. I hope you enjoy it. I kind of want to change the format a little bit here compared to compared to the previous episodes I've done, and it's the language I use might be a little bit more offensive. Okay, and it's not gonna be crazy, don't worry, but it might be a little bit more offensive. So please be mindful of that, and also it's not for kids really. Anyway, there we go. This is the fourth episode of my podcast here, Life with Jamie and More. And I'm going to dive into a topic which is really important to us, and it is called inclusion. And it's a really big kind of topic. So I've been kind of trying to work through what I think it is and how to kind of put it across in a podcast in kind of one episode. Not easy, actually, kind of tricky. Again, this is just what I feel it is and what we feel it is as a family. And everyone has very different circumstances, and what we have had happen to us and what we've been able to have happen could be possibly very different to others. So I'm mindful of that as well. So basically, it all really started with nursery school. Okay, then kindy, elementary school, like primary school, and now junior high, which Jamie is in. I always actually find myself coming back to when I was in primary school, which is kind of like elementary school, okay? There was a classroom called Room 12, and there was a guy named Derek. And I don't know if he knew me, but I remember his name. I remember his last name as well. I don't know what Derek had or anything. I know nothing about that. I just know that his name was Derek, and I know that he was in this room 12. And he was unique because I maybe felt a little bit sorry for him. Now this might be why. Okay, here we go. So there were other kids in room 12, okay, but I only remember him for some reason. There was a guy in a wheelchair in my class, and his name was Wayne. Wayne also was actually a friend of mine, and we would hang out at break time and lunchtime and things like that. He actually moved the wheelchair himself from memory. I don't remember pushing him or doing anything like that. So I don't know, maybe I wasn't allowed to push him, or he just didn't want to push him. I don't remember. Anyway, so he kind of hung around. He was kind of in my little circle of friends. So that was actually really interesting. I always kind of go back to this or remember this. So why are these guys important? Why were they so important? Well, there are two contrasting situations. Wayne was in my class and needed kind of assistance, which he got from kind of like either us, like if he dropped something, we'd pick it up from, I'm sure other things, holding open the doors and all those kind of things, right? Which is what we'd do, or his teacher. So his teacher would help him with things. I don't remember having any other support teacher in the class at that point. So Derek was in my class, fully inclusive in a way. Derek was not. Derek was also, he was not in a wheelchair, not that I ever saw, and I hardly saw him or his classmates. Room 12 was for those who were disabled or special needs, and referred to as, like, basically as kids that were mental or thick ones. We can be so cruel as kids with kids that we don't know about, right? And so that's kind of how I thought about it. I'll be honest. That was it. Okay, so my question is to myself in a way is like, would Derek have wanted to be in my class? Well, I don't know. Okay, but I'm going to go with a yes on that. Would he have had a different life? Yeah, maybe. Would he have had a more inclusive life and made more friends? Yeah, I hope so. I'm pretty sure he would have. Would having him in our class have had a more positive effect on the lives in the class and also him in a good way? Yeah, I think so. So, okay, now I want to fast forward to my intermediate school, which is kind of a bit like, it's a bit like a junior high, but not really. Okay, so intermediate school. Now, I don't remember having any kids with special needs or disabilities in my school, actually. I don't remember at all. Maybe there was, but I just don't remember them. Maybe there was a class, and maybe they were separated, right? I don't know. So, but then I come to high school, and high school was different again. I became friends with a guy. Let's call him Baz. Baz was hearing impaired, deaf, hard of hearing, hearing impaired. We became best mates, actually, best friends, and I would kind of hang out with him often. So I can remember loads of situations when he would not hear me correctly, or not hear things at all. I kind of felt that he was just like anyone else at my school. Okay, I didn't feel that he was any different. And the only difference really was that when I would talk with him, is I had to face him. I had to make sure that he was kind of looking at me, and I was basically facing him, so he was able to read my lips and combine the sound of my lips with, my lips with the sound that he was hearing. He also wore hearing aids as well. If I spoke slower, he would tell me to fuck off, and basically he couldn't understand me. So he wanted me to speak normally, okay? That was the key. We remained friends for, into my 20s, and he also remained kind of pushing my buttons. He used to really know how to wind me up. The one thing I remember really vividly, actually, is how he would not want me to tell anyone he had trouble hearing. Okay, I would tell him that it was. So I wanted to inform the person that he was hearing impaired. Okay, if they were having trouble communicating with him, that was the thing. If there was trouble going on, miscommunications, I said, just tell him, and he would no. He was like, no way. So I kind of understood why. And the reason why that was because when I would tell the person, they would automatically change. A lot of them would automatically change, and they would start talking really slowly and talking like this and not actually talking normally. And so I could understand why he did that, why he didn't want to tell them. It was almost like a default setting for a lot of people. And so what would happen is they would do that, or they would just turn to me and they would start talking to me. So, but my annoyance at the situation was really, it was kind of all down to really me. It was like my annoyance of, seeing a situation that he was unable to, well, not he was unable, but there was just miscommunication. So I would kind of jump in. And obviously there would have been situations where I wouldn't have been there. And so he would have just gone through these situations, right? And just made it through the other side. So, which is awesome. I did always feel that there was a fine line between helping out and not. I'd have to say there was kind of like, there was a fine line there. Okay, so coming back to the real world with Jamie, and he went into daycare. So he was in daycare from a very young age, from about 1 year old, because we were running a business. We're still running a business. So we were running a business, and we were lucky to actually get him into nursery. It was a daycare because it was really hard to get him in. And it was just a regular daycare. It wasn't one for kids with special needs or disabilities. It was just a regular daycare. And basically everyone just loved him. They loved him, and the carers and teachers. And because he didn't really move around till he was about 4 years old because of his muscle tone, is that he didn't it was kind of easy to look after him as well. He would kind of sit there and he would play with things around him, and but there were troubles along the way. At one of the, it was like a kindergarten that he went to, they had actually, we didn't know this at the time, but they had him in the chair, and they had him kind of strapped down across his waist onto the chair, so he wasn't able to get up off the chair, because he would kind of get up off the chair, and and so they would essentially strap him down, tie him down. Okay. One day he obviously tried to get up, and he fell to the side and he hit his head, and basically he had kind of a bit of an injury to his head, and blood started coming out. And so what happened was they didn't even call us. They actually took him straight to the hospital, and then I think they brought him back to the kindy, and then we kind of got the phone call, something like that, something really just total shit, just totally the wrong way to handle it, like with any situation with any kid, just the wrong way. So we left there and we found a better place, much better place. So we got nearer to entering an elementary school. And this is where it all got pretty challenging and more difficult and more stressful for everyone, me included. I could do a whole episode on this. But anyway, we went to the public elementary school where we live. And the vice principal and the principal were less than interested. And they basically were more interested in trying to get us to go to the special needs school. And so we went and had a look at the school. And I can understand why people choose the special needs school. Because it has a lot of kind of attractions in a way. There's just everything. It's like there's more teachers, less kids. It's all it's very kind of more like one-to-one kind of, not one-to-one, but the teacher student ratio is very different. So we looked around, and then we talked about it, and we went back to the elementary school and we had discussions with them. But really, the elementary school, also the special needs system they had set up, was just really not what it needed. It needed different things. And we wanted him to be mainstreamed because he had been essentially mainstreamed from day one. Like, he had gone into daycare and then through into kindy and so on, right? So why wouldn't he go into mainstream elementary school, primary school? Well, and his friends also, because he was going to friends with kindies, his friends would also ask, so is he going to our school, and so they were asking this. That's what they wanted. They were really genuinely enthusiastic about having him at their school. We had massive support for this. We actually did we had a lot of trouble, but we actually did a petition, and we handed a petition with 5,000 signatures to allow not just Jamie, but ensure that reasonable accommodation was provided so that he could be with his friends, and so that other kids could also be allowed. And also, I think key thing here is that parents, we felt that we were not being pushed away, and that there was that the school was welcoming. We needed the school to be welcoming, which they weren't, and they were saying, yeah, and that for them to be like, yes, we can allow you in, and we're going to try our best and make it into an inclusive education for your son. But that was not what we got, so that's why we did this petition, and we got 5,000 people signing up from around the world. It was awesome. It was just so awesome. During that time of doing this petition, really our lives were just turned upside down. It was just like our whole lives were revolving around this, and of course working, right? So it's just so full on. Lives are upside down. We're trying to push through these changes, meetings with the education board, and just trying to tell them this is what we want. It doesn't. Is it really that hard, right? We attracted media. We had camera crews. They did an interview with us. We're on national TV. Yeah, it was just wild. And it was just it was good because it meant that people were seeing. It was seeing just essentially a normal family just wanting to send their child to a mainstream school. And that was really important because we actually got a lot of people get in contact from that, saying that they felt very happy to see that this was going on. That gave them a reason to kind of fight for inclusion and to be allowed to go to their mainstream schools. So it was really important for society, actually. I kind of want to pause here because I want to give you an insight to how I was kind of dealing with this as his dad. Well, I was just kind of trying. I was just being a dad. I was just literally just trying to do everything right, doing what I believe was best for him and others to follow. Really, I was so busy. My wife, my God, she was like an octopus. She was just doing everything right, just so many things. And we just didn't give up. We just kept on going with it. So April came around and he was in and he was mainstreamed. Camera crews and everything, we were all there. But the mental challenge of pushing for inclusion keeps going. It didn't end there. We kind of still have to keep, we still really have to just keep going with this. I asked myself, would this happen to a regular student starting school, right? Treated like that, treated how we got treated, not given the right options, pushed to the side, directed away from an inclusive education because it's hard and it's tricky to deal with, right? So I feel that it's important for society. And I've seen the results of inclusion, especially as Jamie really has gotten to junior high. Those who know him, his friends, those who interact with him can understand him so much better than we can. He will do what they're asking. Right? They will say, "Oh, Jerry, let's go to this." And he'll go, right? And they ask him what he wants to do as well. And he responds, and over, a real friendship blossoms and exists. I love seeing him in this environment because it really is with those who know him and are learning from him. And it's impacting their lives for the better. I know this. They listen to him, they guide him, he listens to them. He needs them because they are the ones who will be living around him as a society when I'm gone. As a dad, that's fucking huge. It basically makes me, I feel reassured, and gives me hope that as a family that we've made a positive change through inclusion. But it is not easy, and and I know it because I hear stories. I hear stories of people fighting for inclusion, for the basic inclusion, for what is just so normal and what should be happening. But it's hard because I feel like I'm always having to educate and tell his teacher and the school about him. And I think that's kind of what I've got to do and what we've got to keep doing, because they just don't know. They just don't know what to do. So we have to keep telling them, this is an idea, try this, do this. It is tiring, it's mentally draining, because I'm not just educating them on how Jamie is. I believe that inclusion and humanity are so interlinked, and it's a relationship that is like mud or something like that. So it's just so together, right? We actually just had a meeting the other day with Jamie's junior high, and it was brought up about his seating position in the class. He was in the middle of the class, which I love so much, because that's just like right in the middle, boom, there he is. But now he's right at the back by the door, and it's because they feel it's best for him. They feel that that's kind of where he is going to, it's just best for him. But is it, right? Is it actually what is best for him? And I wanted to kind of highlight that to them. Because I thought, well, yes, okay, he can exit the door quickly, but is that just for them, so they can kind of exit the door quickly with him? Like if he gets a little bit too noisy or something, they can just whip him out the back door. There he is, he's gone. Let's not disrupt the classroom. They can't do that. And also, there are 4 or 5 other seats at the back of the classroom. So why does he need to be right by the door, right? I don't know. Let's give him options. Let's ask him, where does he want to go, right? So it's just highlighting these things to them that we have to just keep informing them, keep educating them. I do have to remind myself that he is mainstreamed, which is really freaking awesome. And out of all the kids with special needs in his junior high, he is one of the most mentally challenged of them all. And he's there. And they're doing it. And they're making an effort. So that, I know, is huge. Because I know that there are kids out there who are not in that position. So I am very mindful of that. So I push and I challenge the teachers, the system, the bullshit reasons they give us for reasons they've done this or they do that, right? And it infuriates me and my wife. They try, and they want to do better, and that's really good. But they always need more of a push, and they need to be better educated. They need to be told, because they don't know. That's pretty much where it is with them, right? So for me, it's another thing that's piled on top of other things and other things in my life that, as a dad, I feel I should do, right? Another thing I should fix. But I can't change this overnight. I can't just boom, all of a sudden it's going to change. I have to tell myself and remind myself that it's like a pickaxe. I'm just chipping away at the change, because that's really how things change, especially in this country. Nothing changes fast. So you have to just keep chipping away, and it's exhausting. So I have to keep kind of picking away with my pickaxe and just chipping away at the schooling system to make it more inclusive and to bring more humanity into it, because I don't see enough of it in there. Because I know that if I make changes now, is that's going to have really positive effects later on. I want to go back to my friend Baz, right? And if he was not in the same class as me, or even school as me, because he was hearing impaired, how different would that have been for him? But also for those like me, who shared his schooling life and learnt how to help someone who sometimes asked for it and sometimes didn't want the help at all, but got it anyway. That was me. So I kind of want that same experience, but improved. And I know it can be improved in a way that can be played out in the current day, in the modern world. And it's a challenge for all involved. And right from the top all the way down, that's where the change has to happen. I'd always remind myself it's just, it's going to take time. It takes time, chipping away. But it is mentally exhausting. And I hear stories of guys who are just so tired of this. They're so tired. And it's just speaking to a brick wall. And it is extremely frustrating because we see it as something which is just so vital to having our kids go through society. And yet these schools are like, no, you go over there while all the other kids are over there. And that is what we call inclusion, which is not. That's bullshit. That's exclusion. So in my area, I often see big buses picking up kids who have special needs and disabilities, and they get trucked off to these special schools. And there's a big one actually kind of near me, the one that we went to see actually. I look at them and I actually feel a real sense of sadness because they are being excluded from living and socializing with society on a basis where schooling is concerned. And it really is a critical point in people's lives. Schooling it's not just education, it's about society. We educate them about society, right? So they're missing out on having these children who have special needs, who have unique abilities that they'll never see because they've gone off to a special needs school. And I believe that getting them into mainstream and actually in the classes, people need to experience. They need to experience this is how life is. Because let's face it, when we go outside, when we work, all these people are around us. We can't just go lock ourselves in a room and be like, and be like, oh, well, I'm here, and they're all out there. That's not how life works. Life is everyone's there. Right? You can't just avoid everyone. You got to be able to live with everyone and understand So it's kind of a bit like learning really is both ways, right? The learning comes from the society side, but also from their side. So it's a bit like tennis, right? It flows both ways. They learn from us, we learn from them. It's such a simple concept, right? Learning how to get along, learning how to live as humanity. Sorry, that's my fish. So society can learn so much and become a shitload better. And they can teach us how humanity and inclusion is so interwoven. As Jamie's dad, he has really opened my eyes to how inclusion and humanity sit side by side. It's a beautiful thing to see, to experience, to enjoy, to be part of. I can't give up on this concept, hey. I just cannot, because it's not because I want him to be normal, whatever normal is, right? But I remember thinking that this is what some people might feel when they see us battling for inclusion. Some don't understand or choose not to understand how having him with his classmates, his friends, his peers, ultimately those who will grow up and get older with him, right? They will remember how inclusive education was fought for. They can keep that going. They can keep fighting it and keep the humanity going for years to come. It's a very interesting thing to talk about, inclusion, and I do know that everyone has such different experiences with this, and it is tough. It is hard, because as parents, we all want to have the best opportunities delivered to our kids. That's pretty much the unwritten rule of parenting. And it is, it really is such when it happens and when we see it happening and when you see people on board with it, and you see the results, oh my God, it's something else. It's really special. And I'm pretty sure there are stories out there about that. And I'd love to hear those stories as well. So I kind of want to end with a new feature in my podcast, which is about ending on something that made me laugh this week. And I was kind of thinking this morning, what am I going to do? Where am I going to what part am I going to choose with this? And I think I'm going to talk about the mornings. Sometimes, I actually think it wasn't this week because we're only at the beginning of this week. It was last week, and almost every day Jamie woke up and he came out. Every day he would wake up, he would do something kind of a little bit different. He would have some kind of buzz going on, and one of them was, I think the first one was he was playing guitar, and he woke up and he would just be doing air guitar the whole morning, and he would and it was just, I had to laugh. You got to laugh because it's just playing air guitar, almost all the time. Sorry, there's my fish again. And so that kind of made me laugh. He's just walking around just doing air guitar, and then the next day he was kept on looking at his he had a watch on his hand, and as if he was kind of waiting for something to happen. He would hold his arm up and he would be looking down at his watch, and his posture would be like he was kind of impatiently waiting, and he would look at his arm. He doesn't have a watch, by the way. He's just imitating that he's got a watch on, and so he would look down at his watch, and he would do this the whole morning. And it was just what are you doing? It was quite funny. And then we actually had his meeting with his teachers, and we told him about this. And his teacher said, "Oh, that'll be me, because I'm always looking at my watch, trying to make sure that we're trying to get to where we want to be." As a support teacher, I should say, actually, trying to always checking his watch and be how we go for time, because when he changes class, when he goes from one class to another, that's generally the time that he would go to the toilet, because Jamie has pads in his underpants, so basically he was kept on checking his watch. And then I think and then there was the third, last week was a bit unique because there was the third time he did it, and he was walking around the house like a dinosaur. So he was kind of, if you can imagine what a dinosaur looks like when walking around the house, that was Jamie. That was what he was doing. He wasn't incorporating the watch thing into it, or the air guitar. It was just, these are all very separate days. But I just thought it's just funny. It was just every day he would wake up and do something different. Which was fun, but made me laugh, made me smile. So there we go. That's it for today, and I'm going to wrap it up. So thank you again for listening. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it as well. This one, again, is really close to our hearts as a family, inclusion, and everyone has stories of this. Some have great stories. Some have, very sad stories about it. And I know there's challenges. There's so much more to do with inclusion and humanity that it's just, I feel like I'm doing something. And trying to make things better. Thanks again. Take care. From rainy Osaka, have a great week. Take care.